Welcome back to the table, everyone. Today, Emily and I, we didn't just play Dragonkeepers.
That's true.
We're going to be completely honest and transparent with you. We recently played.
We did, because we got to play it with Alicia.
Yeah, we played it with Alicia just this past weekend, 3-player. I played this last week with Ryan, and even more transparency, we played that one wrong. But Emily and Alicia and I played it correctly with the right rules. And there's one big rule that we missed, which is going to be sort of the crux of what we want to talk about here today. But we wanted to share with you our experience with Dragonkeepers. This is the new one from Cosmos. And it is a light, I don't want to pigeonhole it by saying family game.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of lighter games could be characterized that way, but I do think this game does a little bit more than you'd expect if you're not just looking for a family weight game. It's got some thinkiness to it that I think might appeal as a filler type game for more enthusiast gamers.
Yep. So what are we doing in the game? So this is kind of like a tableau building game, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, what we're doing is we're going to be having these dragon cards in our hand, and they can have both a dragon on them, and on the other side they will have a dragon of a certain color or a number and a reward that you're getting. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to collect dragons that fulfill these two requirements. So this top one that you've left out for us is pretty easy. Where
You have a blue dragon right now?
I don't have a blue
don't
dragon,
have a blue dragon.
but I would need one blue dragon in order to fulfill this. But they go all the way up to like 6 of a one-color dragon. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 3 cards. I can pick from either the left pile or the right pile. And when I'm doing that, I just get to take it and immediately put it into my hand.
But here's the rub. She has now changed the scoring, because it gets immediately refilled. Well, in this case, she didn't change the scoring. It's another 1 blue dragon. But as cards get taken, these things change. Say if she took this card next, this comes down, and now it's 4 blue dragons, then the reward is different.
Yes.
So now she may have kind of, it's not a push your luck game, but she may have like, oh, I want that one more card, and she takes it, and now she's like, oh, but now I don't have 4 blue dragons, so now I can't play.
But I do still have a chance to fix it. So if I took that card, now at the end of my turn, after taking up to 3 cards, I can stop early if I want, I can then change what the conditions are with cards from my hand. So I could use this card and say, oh, I really can't do 4 of anything. Let me put this right back down. That's a 1, and now it's a 1 blue again. And maybe I have enough for 1 blue.
Maybe she does. But after a while, once you get a big hand of cards, you can really manipulate things, because she could put a 1 down and then another card that changes this to a green dragon, and she has that 1 green dragon that she can now get rid of and play in front of herself, get that reward. Now, the rewards you're getting are these amulet pieces in most cases. These are going to be, you're going to take some amount of those out at the beginning of the game. They're all of different score values from 1 all the way up to 20 with some gaps in between. You're going to take the lowest one typically, depending on what this reward is, although some of these rewards for the higher numbers, like a 5 or even the 6, which is kind of the Shadow Dragon special card, is going to allow you to take the highest available one too, which is 20 points. And as you take these amulet pieces, it's kind of cool. You can keep your points hidden by putting them face down. And the moment you get 3 of them, or basically any set of 3, you're also going to take sort of one of these gems that goes in the center. The red ones, there's only 3 of those. You're going to want to take those first. They're higher point values. You get to take a look, see if you got the really high one, and then you've built the amulet. These are basically the points that you're collecting throughout the game. And the game is going to be played, depending on player count, to a certain number of amulets completed around the table. So like in a 2-player game, as soon as between the 2 of us we have 7 amulets built, that's going to trigger the end game, and then you're going to basically flip those over, see what all your points are. But the game has one more really tricky thing going on here, because as you play dragons in front of you, it's not just as simple as like, oh, I'm going to play more red, I'm going to play more green. Because once you play your 3rd color dragon, and there's white, there's red, blue, and green.
Yep.
So once you have 2, you're fine. But the moment you play your 3rd color, you're going to have to choose, do I put on the right of those 2 or the left of those 2? Because whatever dragon is sort of trapped, if you will, in between 2 other dragons, you're done playing those dragons for the rest of the game. So if you have a big handful of those dragons, good luck, because you're not getting rid of them.
Yep. And I mean, you can get rid of them, right, to change the attributes
True.
later. But again, that's something you can't play out for points anymore. Plus, you have some objectives, right? You have some extra bonus points you'll get once you've played all 4 colors. So you're kind of being pulled in both directions of like, I do want to play all 4 colors out, but then I'm very limited in what things I can play from my hand. Not to mention, we didn't say this part, but when I change the conditions and then on my turn, I'm going to say, okay, I played my 1 blue dragon. It then goes around the table. So then David still gets to say, do you have 1 blue dragon? And do you want to play it? And if he does, he can play it too. So there's some strategy involved here as well, not just in like, okay, I'll just keep putting down 1s because they're easy. Well, everyone else is probably also going to be able to follow with 1s because they're easy. If I could put down a 5 and then get the highest amulet, it's unlikely anybody else is going to be able to follow my color 5 that I specifically chose. And that means that they aren't scoring and I am.
Yeah, I've seen even in some cases, after a while the game has been played, some people, you might notice the person on your left, they've been collecting a ton of blue. And you're about finished with your turn. You look here and you've left a 5 blue dragons. And you're like, well, I'm not just giving that to them.
Yep.
Because then they can spend their turn building towards their next thing because they can just play those blue dragons down. So you might even, on your last thing, change one of these I'm changing that blue dragon because I know you have a ton of blue dragons to play. I'm changing it to a green. Even though that's not going to help me right now, I can't play 5 green. No one's going to play 5 blue for sure, so I'm going to change it to green.
Yep.
It's probably rare that happens, but it can be one of the sorts of things that you try to consider as you're playing this game. And that's why I think it takes it from just pure, I don't want to say mindless, but pure mindless family weight style gaming to a little bit more thought.
Yeah, and there's also player interaction, the fact that too, right, you have like these golden eggs are one of the other rewards you can get, and those are whoever has the most of those at the end is they're going to change it from being 4 points to 16 points. So there's a bit of player interaction on who has the most. There's things like you said, the blue gems.
Yeah,
right?
The blue gems are really cool. So in the base game, the blue gems, you can always get rid of just 1 on your turn. To instead of taking 3 cards, you can take a 4th card as well. So it's really nice because as you flip those cards, like we said, you see what the next card is. So you're like, oh, I flipped this, it's another blue and I want another blue, I'll take that. But when you do that, again, it's going to reveal the next card and it might not be what you want it to be. The other thing is there's an expansion that has all these treasure chests. We have 1 on the table here, and there are 5 more. These are all wildly different abilities that you can then also use blue gems on. So you can still do what I said for the 4th card, or you can spend a gem to do one of these abilities. The ability we have here on the table lets us break that rule that we talked about earlier. So if you have blue dragons between red and white, they're not dead to you. You can still play blue dragons, you just need to discard a blue gem in order to break that rule, which is very, very flexible.
Yeah, and to get those blue gems, you're creating other dragons, you're creating other things that you're putting down. So it's all kind of working together.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to talk about is the Shadow Dragon, a little bit more detail. We haven't seen them on any of the backs of these cards, but one of the rewards is to claim a Shadow Dragon as well. When you do that, you just take that Shadow Dragon into your hand. 2 things about this. 1, it's a dragon that can be used as any color. Now, you can't just spend Shadow Dragons and say they're all green. You have to have at least 1 of that dragon when you're building your sets. But the other thing, and the other way you could use these, is you could use that as a card to change these top 2 cards so that if you have a ton of one color, you might put this down, and there are no natural 6s in the deck.
Correct.
So you put a Shadow Dragon down like that and play those 6, you're going to be able to get the top and the bottom amulet pieces, which is really the significant way of how you score these high
Big
point
points.
value amulet points. Not to mention, it's unlikely anyone else at the table is playing 6. Now, the downside there is, but by the time it gets back around to you, someone will have taken this card, and then that card comes down, and now there's a Shadow Dragon kind of in play.
Yeah, it's like in the economy.
It's in the economy, so anyone can get that, and you can guarantee it's not going to be you. If you played it, it's probably going to go away before your next turn.
But that's what's kind of cool about it too, right? Like now that they're in the economy, they're being used by everybody, and so it's kind of like the game is evolving as you're playing it.
Yeah, so let's talk about who it's for, who it's not for. We'll keep this simple and sweet. I think, like we've said, this is a family weight game that has a little bit more going on to it. I think any people looking for a gateway style game, it's got adorable artwork. I think families will love that. We love it too. So that's, I'd say, who it's for. I also think it's for maybe more enthusiast gamers
Yeah.
who want a filler that is quick. Now, the box says 20 minutes. We think it might be just a scotch more than that. It's maybe, but not much. It's like a half-hour game. And if 3 or 4 people have played it a lot, you could probably knock a game out pretty quickly. But we do think it's for those types of people as well. This is a great filler to have on the table. There's not many games that come along that I think, hey, this is a good filler.
I think when you explain the game to it, what's good about it is that like it's a quick to explain, it's easy to get onto the table, it's easy to start playing, and then once you're playing it, you're like, oh, actually, there's a little bit more here to it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit more that I wasn't originally thinking about that I might want to try this. Like you were saying with like seeing who's taking which cards or what can we do about it. So there's a little bit more than just the base rules.
Yeah, and that one rule, I can't emphasize this enough. The limitation on when you lock a dragon out of being able to be played, that is huge. Like, Ryan and I played it without that rule by accident. It is a pleasant game that way, but it's nowhere near as thinky about how you approach these things because, like Emily said, you are torn with like, do I want to play another color? Because when I do, I'm locked out of this. Or do I want to play my 4th color so I can grab one of these shields for those big points? Because if I do that, I'm locked out of 2 colors. And this power here is not going to always be in the game. You might have something else. So that rule might be hard and fast, and you cannot do anything about it. So it's a very interesting game in that respect. Now, who is it not for? I would say if you like, or if you don't like, rather, a fair amount of luck in a game and chance. Not to say that this game is like a chaotic mess or anything like that.
Yeah, I would say though too, even when we were playing it, I was worried a little bit that it was just going to feel pretty like, oh, she just happened to get 3 blue dragons and now she keeps doing all...
constantly revealing cards.
Yeah, but the thing is that you're also like, you have a lot of choice because you can stop, you can choose up to 3 cards, right? But you can also stop at any point and say like, that's it, I'm just going to stay where I'm at, and then I'm going to put things down. You also have choice in how you're rearranging it, and if you want to take it up to that higher strategy level, you can play with the additional add-ons to it, and you can also be looking around the table a little more on like how you're strategically placing things out. So I would say that there is luck to it, right? It's not like it's like a perfect strategy game, but I didn't think that there were any moments where I was like, oh, come on, your 5th black dragon in a row.
Right. It is, I mean, like we said, you're going to be revealing cards, and if you're revealing your last card on your turn, it might be a little sketchy, but the combination of that and how you can then change the tops of these cards if you want. If you have a bunch of cards in your hand, you can play very defensively and say, well, I always have the power to basically put on top whatever I want. Now, it kind of goes contrary to collecting cards in your hand so that you can play them as sets, but it's within your control. So, long story short, who it's not for? I changed my mind. It's for everyone. Just give it a try. If you think you don't like a little luck in your game, give this a go and see how it is, because I think we all enjoyed it pretty well.
It's a quick game too.
Yeah, so if you have any other questions about the game at all, we'll be happy to get down in the comments below and answer anything you have to ask. Until next time though, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.